So hi everybody, welcome to today's webinar where we're going to talk a little bit about large assembly management in Creo. So I just prepared a few slides that we start off with, and then we'll jump into Creo. So let's start with that. So just a quick agenda. So I'll be doing a quick PDSVISION overview, and then I've prepared some slides on large assembly management. So just a quick slide about myself. So I'm a PDSVISION technical specialist. I've been working about 16 years within the PTC reseller environment. So each of the engineers in PDSVISION specialize in some areas. So mine is top-down design, mold design, and CNC machining. And I'm based in South Africa as well. So just quickly, PDSVISION at a glance. So our headquarters is in Sweden, Stockholm. So we have a few employees around the world, a few offices. So as you can see in the slide here. So we also develop some of our own apps. So we call it the My PDS applications. So it's just apps that we develop that sort of can help you with areas where we see PTC is a little bit shortfall, and when we create those interfaces just to make it easier. So configurators, search functionalities in Windchill, things like that. We develop our own apps that work with the PTC products. So we have technical excellence as well. So just in our team, we have a lot of experience. So I'm one of the senior guys with 16 years. We've got other team members with a lot more. And if you take that around the world, we have a lot of technical knowledge within the group. For the guys that's really looking for extra support, so the maintenance-based paying customers in some region have some baseline support. We offer extra support that we call star support. So that's just a product where you can add some mentoring above and beyond type of support scenarios. So that's also a product that we offer. Then we also have a lot of training facilities around the world. In North America, we have as well. In South Africa, we have a few as well, and then other regions as well. So we have those centers that can be classroom, it can be e-learning. So whatever you need for the training, we can sort of cater for that. Okay, so let's jump into the large assembly stuff. That's why we're here today. So one of the first things that I want to mention is that I'm going to work in Creo 11 today. So one of the new functionalities in Creo is the Performance Advisor. Really a good tool to sort of narrow down what section or what parts in your assembly is causing maybe a long time to regenerate, or the graphics isn't quick on those parts. So there's a number of reasons why that can be. And this tool sort of give you an overview of that. So the screenshot that I have here is the assembly that I'm going to use today. So we have about 3,400 components in this. We have about 1,360 unique components. So I'm going to put myself out there today. I didn't take a small assembly. I didn't take the largest one I could get, but I sort of took one that's sort of not going to just regenerate in 20 or 30 seconds. So you'll see during the presentation that there will be some hang time, as I call it, where we have the windows thinking a little bit, and we have that blue circle turning and my machine working in the background on some of these applications. So I'm just going to jump quickly into Creo here and then just start this performance report, because it takes about 2 to 3 minutes to run. And then we'll come back to the slides, and then we'll go back to Creo and discuss the rest. So the first thing that I want to show you today is the Performance Advisor. So I'm quickly going to go to Creo. And then I did cheat a little bit. I did open up the main assembly as the master model. So when we want to run this Performance Advisor or the performance tool, you need to run it on the master assembly. It's going to go through. It's going to regenerate everything from scratch And that's why I say it can take a little bit longer. So if we're going to access that from the investigate dropdown, I'm going to say performance report. And you can see that it picked up all the assembly, all the parts, sub-assemblies and things that's already in here. So one thing that you'll notice as I work through this assembly, it was done with proper top-down design tools. So we have a lot of skeletons in here. We have a lot of copied geometry. So it's really a good example of how you need to do your large assemblies in a real-world environment. So more or less like you guys will do it in your production environment. So I've tried to mimic that as far as possible. So if we go to the statistics tab, that's the one that's on the slide as well. So you can see I'm going to work on this machine a little bit. It's going to take some time. So I'm going to start with that, and I'm going to hit the compute button. It's going to warn me it's going to take some time. In your environment, you can just tick in future, do not show this message again. You know what it's going to do. So I just thought I'll keep it there for you guys to see. So you can decide to turn it off or on. I'm going to leave it as is for now, and I'm going to hit OK. So you can see my message window here in the bottom. That's running like crazy. I've also added the timestamps. Also, that's new in Creo 11. So we can see exactly when I started this and when it will be finished. Okay, so that's it. Creo is going to run through that. So let's go back to the slides. Oops, and now I have to do everything from the start. So let's skip a few. So there's the performance advisor slide. So let's go and talk a little bit about what tools we have in Creo to use. So one of the, I think the most common ones and the ones that I use the most is the simplified representations. So a simplified representation is just a way to manage what you bring into memory on your machine. So I'm going to show my machine specs at the end of this as well, and then you can sort of draw a conclusion, or you can relate to how your assemblies are responding on your machine and what you'll be seeing today. So these simplified representations will just sort of bring certain things into your machine memory. So in this example, I've set the automatic rep. So automatic rep was something new introduced in, I think, Creo 7. So the old graphic reps and things like that, that's sort of not used anymore, and the automatic rep was replaced by them. You can set config settings to bring those pre-Creo 7 reps back again. But I kept it default today for as far as possible. So the automatic rep will sort of bring in information that's really needed, just to give you a good presentation of the parts. The master rep, on the other hand, that's fully detailed. That's everything you're going to bring in and everything that's needed to work on that. So it's going to overload your machine depending on the size. The one that I'll use today is not going to overload my machine, but it's going to put some strain on it if I open up the master rep for that. Then one of the other tools that's not really mentioned a lot is the external simplified representations. So this is really a great tool for those large assemblies, but you are a team working on those assemblies. So if you take a scenario where one guy needs to work on a certain section of the car that we'll be using today, and another guy is working on a different section, if you open up the main top level assembly, chances that you're going to bring in something that the other guy is using is pretty good. So especially if you work in a Windchill environment, then you can't check out just things that's already checked out by other people. So these external simplified representations sort of is a counter for that. So you're going to create a simplified rep as normal, like in the previous slide, and then you're going to save that as an assembly. And then people can open up that without bringing the whole assembly, the top level assembly, into memory. And then they can use that to design certain sections or even make improvement or do whatever is needed using those automatic reps in that session. So really a cool tool. I'm going to show you how that works in Creo as well. And also the other tool that's quite often used is Shrinkwrap models. So there's two reasons why you will use Shrinkwrap well, models. So the one reason is to sort of ship information to suppliers or something like that. So you don't want to give them all your IP or all the information around your assembly. You just need to give them certain things, and then you can sort of decide what you give them. So you can do like a surface subset. So that's just going to do like the outside surfaces of your component. And you can do like a facet model. So that's the bottom right hand example. So not really great in that instance, but it can still give the guys sort of like a volume, what they can use if they use that. And then the one with the most detail is the merged solid. So you use that. That's going to give you a lot of information. It's going to be more accurate. But then again, you don't have to show the insides. So in Creo, I'm going to use the example of the engine or maybe the gearbox. So we don't need to show them the pistons moving up and down. We don't need to give them the cranks, the crankshaft information. So then we can sort of just give them the outside of the engine, the outside of the gearbox, and then they can do their modeling or their design around that. One other thing that can influence your performance on your machine is the display styles that you use. So I did a quick test, and on my machine, between the wireframe and the shaded with edges and the shaded with reflection, that didn't make a huge difference. But then again, I'm not using a very heavy model today. So if you're looking for that extra bit, maybe put your display in wireframe. I found that in very large assemblies and especially in drawings, those are a lot quicker than for instance the shaded with edges, and for the no hidden line can also take some time because Creo need to calculate what lines are hidden and what not. So wireframe, it's just going to show everything, and you can spin your models and things like that, and from there you can sort of change what components or what sub-assemblies you want to show as shaded or any of the other display styles. So just a quick one on how to manage that. So my laptop that we'll use today, so that's sort of what I have. So a Dell laptop, Precision 7730. I have a NVIDIA Quadro B5200 card and about 32 gigs of RAM on my laptop. So that's sort of just to give you an indication of what you're going to see today, how long it's taking on my machine, and then you can sort of do a comparison on your machine just to check performance. So just a nice measuring mechanism that you can use. Okay, so I think that's my last slide. So let's go back into Creo and let's see what that performance advisor did. So that's done. So let's quickly look at the timestamps on these, so we can quickly see how long did a few or 1,000, let's call it 1,300 parts took to generate. So 38. I can't move this up and down. I think I started on 36 or something like that. So about 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, so let's come there. So in the performance advisor, there's a few things that you can do. So it's going to show you the total time that it took, and then you can quickly see what sub-assemblies took a long time. So I can see this first sub-assembly took a while. I can also view this as a flat list. Okay, so everything is sort of collapsed at the moment. I'm just going to expand that. And then I can sort of filter what I want to see. So do I want to see assemblies? Do I want to see the placement components? And what I want to see is the part. So I can see here's one part that took about double the time than all the others. So that's maybe a part worth investigating. Also, just quickly on the statistics. So it's going to give you some of the part information. So one that I want to point out here that sometimes take a lot of time is the lattices. So I don't have any of that in my assembly at the moment, but those guys can take some time. So you can manage them differently. Make sure you take them out of a simplified rep, so it's not picking it up all the time. So make sure it's not a master rep. Use one of the other options when you bring that into your design. Okay. So a nice thing about the performance report is as soon as I pick the part, it's going to highlight in the model tree as well. So you can see on the left-hand side, that's highlighted that for me. So I can close this and I can go and investigate this component. So I can just quickly open the model and then I can see, so I have a little bit of a pattern going on here, and that's why this component is taking a little bit longer. So let's quickly create a section. Just see what's going on here. Okay, so we have quite a few patterns going on here. So we can sort of manage this different as well. We can create a part simplified rep for this component as well. Maybe use a different pattern type. So you can use like a geometry pattern instead of the normal pattern. Those are sometimes a little bit quicker. So there's lots of tools that you can use once you find this component to sort of speed up the process. Maybe you don't even need this component in your assembly. Then you can just exclude it using a rep. So let's go and look at the rep options that we can find. I'm just going to cancel that. I'm going to close that component, and then I'm going to close my main assembly. I'm going to erase everything from memory. And now, so you can see that's taking a little bit of time erasing that memory. And then we're going to start off from scratch. And then I have to quickly restart Creo. Demo 101. So let's quickly get a fresh start here. So I'm just quickly going to select my working directory again, where my data was saved. So I'm using the Synergy car. Is that one? Okay, so we're back to where we wanted to be. So let's quickly look at the type of reps that we can open. So I'm just going to open up my top assembly. So once you hit open on the open window here, then it's going to open up the master. So then you don't have any choices. It's going to open up the master. It's going to take time. And then you don't really have a lot of control over that. Then you can still create simplified reps when the master is loaded through the view manager, but that's sort of not what we want to do now. So I'm going to say open a rep, and then it's going to give you this window. So if there's any predefined representations, you can sort of pick that. You can pick the master rep, you can pick the automatic rep, and then sort of work from that. So if we open up the automatic rep, just going to pick that, say open. So now what Creo is doing, it's sort of calculating and making decisions for you. What information is needed to give you a good representation of this top level assembly? So I didn't open up a sub assembly only. I didn't manage it through different representations. This is just straight for top level assembly as an automatic rep. So I'm sort of giving it to Creo and say, okay, do what you think is best and give me something. So I have that open. So fairly detailed. We can still see the mannequin. You can see the eyes, the eyebrows, everything. We turn the car around. We can see the gearbox. We can see the engine. Okay. We can see some of the suspension parts. Okay? And we can see the wheels and the bits and pieces in here. So really, really a good one. And that didn't take too much time. So once again, you can sort of check in our message window over here. So maybe a minute to open this assembly. Okay, so by just using the automatic rep. Okay, so the next one that I'm going to show you is to sort of create a rep on the fly. So let's say in this scenario, we don't have, we sort of know what section of the assembly we want to work on, maybe the suspension or maybe the steering. So we're going to go open again. And I'm going to go to this top level assembly, and highlight that, and I'm going to say open representation. But instead of picking one that's already there, I know where I want to go with this. So I can pick define. I'm going to give my rep a name, and then it's putting me in this representation dialog box. So in here, we can do a lot of things. So we can use rules, for instance, to sort of create a simplified representation for us, or we can just take these top levels and we can sort of decide what do we want to include in our representation and how do we want to manage that. So let's say if we want to work on the suspension for the front end. So I know the front wheel, the assembly, and maybe the let's call it the engine is going to be in that area as well. Steering, we don't want to work with that at the moment. So basically what we want to see is those front wheels and the engine and where that is in that relation. And then I can just simply right click on this and I can say set this to any rep. So remember, master is going to bring in everything. Automatic is going to bring in what I need, but from the automatic rep, I can sort of take it further. I can go from the automatic rep to a master rep. You can do the same for a master rep and then set that to automatic rep, but then just remember to erase your memory, because if the master is already loaded in your memory, it's there. So if you go downwards with your simplified representations, then you always need to go and erase not displayed, and that's going to free up some of the memory on your machine. So I'm going to set these three to automatic, and in our graphics window, it's going to build that for us so we can sort of see what the representation is going to be. It's going to be automatic. I can hit open, and it's going to bring those files in as an automatic representation. Oh, sorry, my Afrikaans is letting me down with the English today. So that's what we see. Okay, so from here, we can decide. And also notice that the top level assembly is not in memory, but we're still working in that. And that's where I want to show you the external simplified reps. So where's that going to come in? So from here, your normal Creo environment, you create new assemblies, you change the design if you want to. If you need to work on the brake calipers, you can do that. So, but now that was a lot quicker to open, and it's just showing you what you need to see. Okay, so that's a simplified rep that you sort of create on the fly. So the next one that I want to show you, erase my memory again, is also from the top level assembly, but this time around we're going to use some rules to sort of create that simplified rep. So if you can put yourself in a scenario, maybe you don't know where these components are in the assembly, but you know what the numbers are. So you guys sort of know your product. In this case, I know I want to work on my steering, but I don't know where that is in the model tree. Okay, so I wasn't involved all the time with this design, and now I need to go and do something on the steering. So I'm going to open a representation again. I'm going to say define again. I'm going to give it a name again. I'm going to keep it default now, but then I can create a rule. So if you right click on this rule tab here, you can say edit rules, and then you can sort of create rules for that. So the first thing that you can do is you can decide what action needs to be taken. Do you want to exclude components? Do you want to set them as master rep? Do you want to set them as automatic rep? You can decide what you want to do with this rule. So it all depends on where you want to go with this. So in my case, I just want to see all the things, let's call it for the steering. So I'm going to say, well, open them up as an automatic rep. Right click on the condition, say new, and then just hit the enter. And then you're going to see something familiar. So this is the normal search tool in Creo. So if you search for components or anything like that, we're using the same rules set for this simplified rep. Right. So for instance, I can go and I can say all the parts with steering in them, I want to sort of see them. As an example, if you go to type as an example, you can say, well, let's go to expression. So if you want to sort of see things that was created or modified by a certain person, or in Winchell modified on a certain date, created on, or things like that. So if there's a specific day that there was something wrong with the design or something, and you've got that information, then you can use this search tool to find that information. So this search tool, really powerful. There's a lot of things you can do in this. You can search by the ID numbers if you have that. So circular references, things like that. You can use that to find that. Status, things you can do, and geometry, things you can search as well. Okay, so if you have a little bit of information gathered from past experiences, or maybe from Winchell or any other thing that you have, use this rule functionality. It can make your life a lot easier. So in my scenario, I know I want to work on steering. I know the naming conventions we used was descriptive. So I know if I look for steering, I'm gonna find everything related to steering. Maybe not everything, depending on who else worked on it, but it's gonna give me a good idea. So I'm gonna go preview the results. Okay, and I can see there was 31 items found. I'm just gonna pick on one of them, and Creo is not happy. So yeah, one of the things, if you work offline, everything works perfectly until you get into a crowd. Then there's always some challenges. So let's go and open that up again. I'm going to give it one quick bash, a lot quicker. And then we'll see what Creo is going to do with that search functionality. I'm going to go into Define. I'm going to keep a default rep. I'm going to create that edit rules again. I want that to be automatic rep. Say new, hit the enter button. And then I'm just going to keep it simple. Steering with my little star there. Oh, I need to grab all of them and say okay. So then I'm just going to evaluate that rule and hit the OK button. And I can see Creo sort of showed all of those. So two assemblies make sense, but then we have this little one over here that's sort of in a different sub-assembly, but it's still got something to do with the steering. So my steering column and things wasn't named properly, or isn't part of this now. So all I can do now is go open. And then I have that simplified rep. Okay, so just that information in here, from here, I can go and I can do my normal design features and sort of create new components and or make design changes as needed. Okay, so that's the rules that I wanted to show. So let's go on to the external representation. So I'm going to go to my view manager over here, and I have a few reps that I already created. So I'm just going to go in them just to show you what was done. So I have my engine and my gearbox in here. So let's say in this scenario, what I need to do is I need to go and work on how they link up. I need to create some brackets that's going to fit to the chassis, things like that. Okay, so I'm just going to cancel that. So you can create the reps as I've created now previously. And once you have that, you can sort of just set them as active. And then that's going to activate the save as external rep for you. Okay, so it's just bringing in that information again. So the gearbox and the engine, quite a bit of information in them. You have the internal gears there and everything. So as soon as that, then you have the copy as external. So then you're going to give it a name. So give it a nice descriptive name so you sort of can see it's an external rep. There's different icons and things that's sort of showing. So let's go engine external and gear external. Okay, so now I can make it dependent. So once again, on these, you can sort of control the dependency. So once again, your top-down design becomes part of this. I'm going to make it dependent. So if I change anything in my main assembly or anything on my engine or my gearbox, that means this external simplified rep is going to update with that information. So I'm just going to say, okay. And it's going to open that as a separate assembly. So now if I save this out, it's also going to, it's a separate file that you can work off. So that's why I said during the presentation that this is great for guys working on the same big assembly, but on different sections. So I can create as many reps as I want to, as I did now, and then just save them as external. And then people can work on that without bringing the top level in all the time. So remember all the previous things I did now. I went to the top level assembly and then created the simplified rep from there. This, you can just open up the file. You'll notice the icon is different here at the top. And then you note it's an external and these two are masters. So now I can go and I can create components like I would normally do. I have a few controls that's going to sort of update the rep for me. If depending on the settings, if it was linked or not, that will update according to that. Same goes for Windchill, if you do this on Windchill as well. So everything is linked all the time. Okay, so that's sort of what I wanted to show you guys on the simplified reps. Then I have two more exercises on the shrink wrap. So let's quickly go and open, and I'm going to open the gearbox. Notice that I hit the master and that was open, but it was already in memory. And I quickly just want to show you guys that we have some mechanisms in here and it should turn. Here we go. So gears and things are moving in this assembly. Okay, so we're going to send this out to a supplier that needs to maybe machine brackets for us that's going to sort of link it to the chassis or something like that. But we don't want to give them all the information. We just want to give them the outside. So one of the features that you can use is this the shrink wrap. So if you go save as and you set your save as type to shrink wrap, you can give it a nice descriptive name to know to show that's a shrink wrap. So Creo will by default add the SW there at the back. I'm just going to put my initials in front, and that's saving to my working directory at the moment. Okay. So then we have the three creation methods that we've discussed in the slide. So we have the surface subset, a faceted model, and the merged solid. So that surface, just going to give you surfaces. Facet is that rough one where you can sort of use for a volume. And then the merged solid is the one that's got a little bit more detail. What you can also do is adjust the quality. So as soon as you adjust this, Creo is just going to tell you it can increase your regeneration time and the memory usage on your machine. So on this part, 3, 4 is about all right. You can sort of go to the preview button and adjust that. So let's first do the surface and let's just go preview and see what we're going to get. So we get some information. We have this front bracket. A little bit of the surfaces. We can see all the internals are not there, so no gears. We've still got the gear knob in those brackets on a level 2. We can up that level if we want to. In this exercise, I'm going to keep it the same. So we're going to go to facet model, and let's just preview that. So really not that great, but you can sort of use it for a space claim in something else if you want to, but I won't use that for any design purposes. And then the merge solid, so same level, sort of same settings. We're going to go preview, and that's a little bit better. So this is something other people can work with. We have some good surfaces for mounting, and we've got this front holes that's fairly accurate, the top, the bottom, and we've got a little bit of the internals. So maybe we can do level 1 and still have a decent outer shell for this. Okay, so if we go and we say okay on this, it's sort of going to create that, and it's going to save that shrink wrap model for us. Okay, so I'm just going to grab the name here from the bottom. I'm going to cancel this, and let's quickly go and open up that. So there's the one that I've just saved. Open that up, and let's just see how it will open up in Creo. So one thing you guys need to notice here that's different from the one that I'm going to do next is that it's using external copy geometry, but this is dumb data. It's just sort of taking it from the original model. You can't edit definition it. If you see here, I can't open up the base model, where with the other features you'll be able to do that. So this is a dumb model at this stage. From here, you can still go file, save as a copy, and you can do your normal step files or IGES files or whatever other files you want to do or send to your supplier, for instance. Okay, so that's the one. So the other one that I use a little bit more in top-down design approaches is where you will create a part, just a standard part. I'm just going to call it HA Shrinkwrap PV, and then I'm going to use the gearbox again. So normal part environment, and this is, you can do the same for skeleton models as well. So part or skeleton, exactly the same. In a top-down environment, I'll rather do this in a skeleton model, but in this case, it's going to show you what you need to see, and it's going to be the same for both. So what I'm going to do is in here, I'm going to create a shrink wrap, and then you'll notice by default it's going to create an external external shrink wrap. So I'm just going to browse for that, and I'm going to browse for my gearbox. I'm going to open that, and I'm going to tell it where do I want to place it. So you can sort of use datum planes and things like that. I'm just going to keep it default for now. And then you can also decide what do you want to bring in. So should it just do the outer shell? Do you want to manually collect, or do you want to sort of auto collect all the solid geometry? So I'm going to go for auto collect all solid geometry. And then it's going to ask me, do I want to include the internals for this? So I'm not going to use anything on the internal gears or anything like that in this example. So I'm going to tell it, yes, I would like to exclude that. So that's going to bring in the assembly, and I can just hit OK. It's going to regenerate that. And then I have that in here. So now I have an external shrink wrap, and this is linked to the engine itself. So if I right click on this, I can see I can open reference model. So at any stage, if I need to go back to the gearbox assembly, I can do that through this component. Right. So from here, I can go and I can do normal extrudes. And extrude on that. And you can do whatever you need to do in here. Using references, if you want to use those, you can use the project or whatever you want to do in that scenario. So block and a hole is always the simplest thing. So that's sort of showing you how you can use these external or the shrink wraps, external shrink wraps. So I forgot to mention that you can ask questions in the beginning of the webinar. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to get those questions in, and then I will try to answer them. That's sort of what I wanted to show for today. So I'm going to mute myself for a few seconds. Okay, so we've got one question that came in from Michael. So I'm going to try to answer that, and then while the other guys get the others in, so you can sort of listen and so I'm going to try to explain that. I think the first rule, Michael, is that inseparable assemblies is not a large assembly management tool. It's not there to make your models any lighter. It's sort of like it will embed components in an assembly. It is a new feature. I haven't worked much with it. So I'll get back to you on what that exactly is. What I can tell you now, it's not for large assembly management. So I'll get more information to you on that. Michael's question was, what are inseparable assemblies? So sorry, I should repeat that. So then we've got other question. Will some of this functionality only work with Windchill or other PDM systems like Teamcenter, Unify 2? So I'm not sure how Teamcenter or other PDM systems will handle the tools we have for top-down design. So I'm not sure how they manage copy geometry, for instance. I'm not sure how they're going to handle the external simplified reps or the external shrink wrap. If you can, I sort of assume if you can check the mean and it's going to keep those links between the components, then it should be fine. Most of these tools, except the performance advisors, being around fairly long within the Creo and even pre-wildfire days. So it's really matured functionality. So I can't talk for them, but it's been around a while, so they should be able to manage that. My suggestion is to take a sample assembly, use some of this functionality, and check part in and parts in, sub-assemblies in, and see how that's reacting to it. So then we've got another question. If an external rep is created without checking out the top level, will we see the new created external rep checked in the next time we'll open the top level as an available rep? Okay, so let me just quickly play that in my head here. So we have an external rep, not checking out the top level. So then we have the new created external rep checked in. I don't think it will open up the top level automatically. You will have to force it. So you'll have to go on the external rep and say sort of update rep. Then it's only going to look for the information that's in that specific rep. So it won't go to the top level assembly. So the instance that I had with just the gearbox and the engine, it's just going to look for those sub-assemblies or those components in that external rep. So you'll have to force that. For instance, in my instance, I've only set them as automatic reps. So the master isn't there in any case. So if I change those to display the master reps, then it will sort of check it out and grab that information. If I want to update that external rep, then it will need to go and grab that as well. But it will never go to the top level unless the external rep is directly to the top level itself, like a skeleton or external geometry on that top level. It will only grab what's needed, and that will be dependent on the level that you've chosen to create the external rep. So remember, you can create external reps for sub-assemblies as well. So then it will only go to that specific label. Okay, so I don't see any new questions in, so I'm going to give it a minute or so. So the next question is, do simplified reps and shrink wraps have mass and center of gravity into them? So in some of the shrink wrap functionalities, you can add the mass. As soon as you add the mass, you can get the center of gravity and all the other bits and pieces that goes with your mass properties. Simplified reps, not that much. It's only viewable if you think about it. So you'll have to bring in the master to sort of get an accurate mass for that. So what the shrink wrap is doing in the background, it will regenerate the master rep when it's creating that shrink wrap, and then it will sort of take that information and save it with the shrink wrap. So yes, mass properties with shrink wraps, simplified reps, you'll have to show the master to get an accurate. Okay, so I don't see any other questions coming in. You guys are free to reach out to us at any stage with any questions or anything that you might have. So I want to thank you guys for joining us today. This session will be, well, it was recorded. It will be on our YouTube channel. You will also receive links to go and view it again. So, yep, thank you guys and have a great day.